I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks."
That's the White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt on U.S. President Donald Trump saying he'll decide in the next 2 weeks about whether to take direct military action against Iran's nuclear sites. It was almost exactly a week ago that Israel first struck Iran's nuclear and military infrastructure, and tensions between the countries have escalated since. Prime Minister Mark Carney was asked today directly whether he supports the U.S. striking Iran in the name of diminishing Iran's nuclear capacity. Have a listen.
The prospect, in any sense of that word, of Iran having a nuclear weapon is fundamentally destabilizing to peace in the Middle East and broader peace and stability in the world. We support, at first point. Secondly, we absolutely support and stand by Israel and in its right to defend itself and to protect itself. We join others in looking for a resolution of this crisis that ensures that there is not a nuclear weapon or nuclear capacity in Iran, that ensures the safety and stability of all countries, Israel included, in the region, and that leads to broader peace in, or prospect of broader peace in the Middle East.
Israel's ambassador to Canada, Iddo Moed, is here to talk a little bit more about that now. Hello, Ambassador. It's good to see you again. Thank you very much for making the time.
Thank you for having me.
I wanted to start off and ask about the fact that today Israel, my understanding, is killed one of the second in command of the Iranian military, who had just been appointed to the position 4 days ago to replace someone else who was taken out by the supreme leader. Is it fair to say that Israel wants to eliminate the supreme leader of Iran?
Israel is about, this operation started to eliminate a direct imminent threat against Israel that emanates from Iran. So that is the nuclear and the missile threat that Iran has been developing. This is our goal, this is our aim, a direct imminent threat to Israel. So we are therefore aiming at the ballistic missile program, which is very elaborate and in and of itself is, of course, almost a weapon of mass destruction against Israel. Against the nuclear program that is very broadly known, Iran has been very, very quickly accelerating that program in order for them to have nuclear weapons. So we came to understand that they're getting very close to actually having this nuclear weapon. And beyond that, the plan of the leadership of Iran was to destroy the state of Israel. So we go after the military command. We want to make sure that the whole apparatus that was put in place to destroy the state of Israel will not be able to do that plan.
Does that mean the supreme leader? And I ask because at the very top of the military infrastructure that you reference on both those programs is the supreme leader. The 11 people below him have been taken out by Israel. Is the objective to also do the same to the supreme leader?
The objective, again, is to eliminate a direct threat to the state of Israel. So this is what we are doing. We are doing it very precisely. We are aiming at all the components of the nuclear plan. We're aiming at all the components of the ballistic plan. We want to make sure, and the weaponization plan, so we want to make sure that those do not exist and do not pose a threat directly to Israel.
Do you believe that the supreme leader poses a direct threat to Israel? And I'll tell you why I'm asking, because there is considerable, I don't know if concern is the right word, but certainly speculation that part of what Israel's objective is here, and some of its allies perhaps in this case, would be regime change. And hence why I'm asking if you believe the supreme leader individually is part and parcel of the threat you just described.
We have nothing against the people of Iran, and we made that very clear, but we do have a problem with the plan that Iran has put into place and which they've been actually developing for decades. And therefore, we aim to disable and to debilitate that plan. This is what we are doing right now, and this is what we are focused on doing. And we have not completed that yet, but we are busy making sure that Iran does not pose the threat that they wanted to against Israel.
Are you trying to force regime change?
We are not trying to reform. I'm not going to elaborate on that because I don't think that this is not part of the goals that Israel set out. As we said, it's a direct imminent threat, and we look at the components of that threat, and we want to take those components out.
I wanted to ask you about the threat, the nature of the threat as you describe it and as the government in Israel has, which is, and you said today, I think it was accelerating, right? Particularly where the nuclear program is concerned, that Iran, and the Prime Minister of Israel has said this, that their program to develop a nuclear weapon, you have evidence, your country has evidence to show that that plan was accelerating and that the development of such a weapon could be imminent. The Director of National Intelligence for the United States back in March, Tulsi Gabbard, testified before Congress saying, while Iran had an unprecedented stockpile of weapons-grade uranium, it did not appear to be building a nuclear weapon. Will Israel be sharing the evidence that it says it has about the imminent nature of this threat as you characterize it?
Our goal, again, is to take out a threat that is directly posed against Israel. This is our main focus and goal right now. There are various aspects that the international community has came to understand in and of itself. The IAEA Board of Directors, the International Atomic Energy Agency, came out with a report of non-compliance when it was very clear that Iran is developing and actually accelerating the enrichment of uranium to a grade of 60%, which is beyond any kind of civilian use almost. And it was very clear that that plan was far beyond that. So they planned actually to accelerate that enrichment further. And we've heard that leaders, they've stated that for decades, very openly. There is a clock in the middle of Iran that poses the time, the counting back when Israel will be eliminated. So all of that is there. There is no, I mean, the international community can see for themselves that what Iran is doing. And we've seen the missile program. We know that the missile program actually has a reach of much further than Israel. It's well deep into Europe. So we have to ask ourselves why. And why is Iran developing such a huge number of missiles when we know that, I mean, that it is destructive? So it's all the evidence is out there.
And I do take your point about the IAEA. It was earlier this month that they presented that information that you're saying. I guess why I'm asking about whether or not Israel will share the evidence is because there's a difference in what the IAEA presented and the conclusion that the Prime Minister of Israel shared with the rest of the world, which was the development of this nuclear weapon was imminent. So far, there is not any intelligence in open sources or corroboration from, for example, even the United States to say that that, in fact, was the case. And actually, at the time, the U.S. was involved in negotiations with Iran to reach some sort of agreement, not to say that they would be fruitful, but if the U.S. believed and had intelligence to corroborate what you are saying, that the development of such a weapon was imminent, would they, too, not have been directly involved right away rather than sitting across the table and trying to negotiate?
Well, there is a reason why the United States is helping Israel to defend itself. And there is a very clear understanding also from G7 countries that Iran is on its path to put its hands on a nuclear weapon. I don't think
I'm not debating that. I'm not debating that.
Right.
And the Prime Minister today was clear, nobody wants to see Iran have a nuclear weapon. But the timing of this escalation was based on the predication that the development of such a weapon was imminent, not a year down the road, 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road. Your Prime Minister said it was imminent. What evidence is there of that?
So whatever evidence there is, that's shared with our partners, with our allies, and they point all to an accelerated effort by Iran, both to accumulate highly enriched uranium, and we know that they've already had capacity, or have a capacity for 9 bombs. And we know that they are accelerating their ballistic missile program very significantly. And we hear, and let's remember that just a year ago, they shot a barrage of almost 500 missiles into Israel. So their aim is very clear. To us, there is no doubt.
And when you say that intelligence has been shared with your allies, does that include Canada? Is it the United States? Like, are there allies that can corroborate the fact that it's imminent? Because we have yet to hear that publicly.
So you have to look at statements made by the international community when it comes to understanding that Iran is on its path to a nuclear weapon.
Let me ask you about what role allies might play, and in particular, the United States. We started off the segment hearing from the White House press secretary, who re-emphasized what the president said last night, which is that he will make a decision about direct military involvement in the next 2 weeks. In order for Israel to accomplish the goals as you describe them, your objectives in this as you describe them, do you need the United States?
I think the whole international community must be part of a very strong message to Iran, a united front against Iran that is out there to develop a weapons that will allow them not only to destabilize the region, but go much further than that. I think it was yesterday that CSIS came out with a report also mentioning Iran's role in all around the world, including perhaps in Canada. So we must all be very concerned about the role that Iran is playing, this regime in Iran, and it must be receiving a very clear message from the entire international community that their plan to develop nuclear weapons, their plan to develop those missiles that have a reach far beyond the Middle East, and they're talking about numbers like 10,000 missiles within a year, all of that is totally unacceptable. I think this is the role of the international community.
And I certainly take your point on all of that. My question, though, is very specific to the United States, because that is where the focus is right now. And in particular, this one nuclear facility that is said to be integral to Iran's capacity to develop this kind of a weapon, the Fordo facility.
Right.
There is a U.S. weapon, the massive ordnance penetrator, that everything I have read says only the U.S. has, but also only the U.S. can deploy, and it is the only thing with the capacity to fully destroy this facility. Again, I'll pose to you, does Israel need the U.S. to intervene in order to achieve the goals as you stated them?
We embarked upon this operation with a clear objective to make sure that Iran doesn't pose a threat, which means that in our eyes, we can accomplish that goal. We are in constant discussions with our allies and our partners to see what else can be done, but I won't elaborate beyond that.
Can you really, though, accomplish the goal without the U.S. in the capacity as I described it? How would you have the ability to destroy, for example, Fordo?
I will not go into details about how we're going to execute our plans, but we know what we started and we know how to get there. We are busy doing that. We have achieved full air superiority over Iran, and we are on our way to reach all the targets that we set out to do.
And just finally, I did want to ask about Canadians who are in Israel.
Right.
The Foreign Affairs Minister today released a statement. I think we can pull it up for our listeners to take a look at it, essentially saying that they are working on plans to evacuate people who are not able to do so through, I mean, the airport's closed and stuff like that, so through commercial aircraft. Are there any conversations between the minister here or her delegates and your office or you about facilitating that kind of thing?
Yes, so we are in constant, I just called to make sure that this is indeed ongoing also in Jerusalem, and the constant contact also with the embassy, the Canadian embassy in Tel Aviv. Hopefully tomorrow they will be beginning with commercial flights leaving Israel, so people can purchase tickets and leave Israel on board of those flights. And we hope to expand that.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Ambassador, thank you very much for making the time for the conversation today.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it as always.
Thank you.
Israel's ambassador to Canada, Iddo Moed.